So hello and welcome to Ipswich Prep webinar, our live open morning. And without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Amanda Childs, Head of Ipswich Prep, to tell us a bit more. Amanda.
Thanks, Saskia. Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Amanda Childs and I'm head of Ipswich Prep School and also the Lodge Day Nursery. So the prep school itself caters for children from the ages of 5 to 11. So that's primary age children. But we also have our own childcare facility in the Lodge Day Nursery, which has children from 3 months through to 5 years. And that incorporates our preschool class, which the children can be part of in the year before they go into the reception year. Ipswich Prep School is a really happy school, and whenever you come round, hopefully you will come round and see us as soon as we can open up those doors for you, that you'll see how happy the school is. And learning here is really fun. And we want children to have a love of learning that's going to last them a lifetime. And if we get that right from the very beginning, then they can build on that love as they go through the school and beyond. We are independent and we embrace all of the benefits of being independent. So we can choose all of the best bits of education, looking at the research that's always out there, seeing what's going on and choosing the best bits without the constraints of having to do SATs or any other assessments that are put on to state schools. And that means that we can look at our curriculum and make sure our curriculum is the very best it can be to enable the children to have the very best education that they can. And that includes being able to choose what's in our curriculum. So we don't spend all of our time doing maths and English, which is incredibly important, but we want to make sure that the children have a rounded education, that they can be creative in, and most importantly, be able to develop the skills of creativity within their work, because we don't yet know what their roles are going to be like when they eventually get into the work world. But we do know that they need to be creative and they need to be critical thinkers. And so our curriculum develops that, as well as having a knowledge of all of the wonderful subjects that we allow the children to learn about. We benefit from excellent teachers, and they truly are excellent here. And we have small classes. And that means that the children get a personalised learning experience. And they are this coupled with the fact that everybody in the school has a passion for education. So not just the teachers, the teaching assistants, but everybody that works within the school is passionate about making sure that the children get the very best education. And we also have a great mix of specialist teaching, as well as the form teachers that really do know the children incredibly well. But everybody has that passion to ignite a passion of learning in the children. As we go through the school, we become more academic, enabling the children to get ready for the senior school. So we are the prep school for Ipswich School. And that means that we want the children to have a seamless progression from the prep school into the senior school. So as the children enter the school at a later stage, we are more academically selective and we make sure that the children are going to be ready, but we don't push the children. And that's a really important nuance that we always use, that we stretch and challenge the children. And that's the difference, is that actually we're walking alongside the children and making sure that we're guiding them and enabling them to become confident learners. And as they go through the school, they become more independent in their learning. We have learning dispositions that help the children to understand exactly how they are as learners. So walking alongside the children, stretching and challenging as they move through the school, means that we help them to reach the potential at whatever stage that they're at. And therefore, they will move on to the senior school in a very seamless way. It's just across the road. The children will be prepared not only academically, but actually emotionally and socially as well. So as they move across, they will have opportunities to meet with the senior school staff and to be able to be ready in terms of making sure that they know where they're going and what they're going to be doing as they go across the road. We care about the children, and we care about the children in the broadest sense possible. So we prepare the foundations for the children to move over the road to the senior school. And indeed, the foundation stage is not called the foundation stage for nothing. So reception is the end of the foundation stage. And those firm foundations create a platform for the children to be able to learn in the very best way possible. So we believe that the foundation stage should be the very best start. We want our children to be relentlessly curious, asking questions and making sure that they're interested in everything that they're doing. And obviously, a child is not going to be as interested in one thing as they are with another. Every child is an individual, and we want to bring out that individuality in the children to help them to develop as people, as individuals themselves. So we help them by giving them a huge amount of opportunities to explore lots of different things. And as I said earlier, it's not just about doing maths and English here, but actually having all of the creative subjects, being able to have the very best teaching in those subjects, which helps them to see what they're really, really good at and what maybe they need to work a little bit harder at in order to get through what they need to in school. As I said, that we care about the whole child, and our pastoral care here at Ipswich Prep is exceptional. And I don't say that lightly, because we make sure that we work incredibly hard to make sure that the children are happy. There's lots of research out there to say that children that are not happy are not going to learn as well. And it makes sense. If a child is worried about something, then they're going to be thinking about that rather than concentrating on their work. So it's really important that we help the children with the small issues before they become big issues. And if we can do that, then the children are going to be as happy as they can, and they're going to work as hard as they can. And we don't expect children to be exceptionally happy all of the time. That would be unrealistic and probably wrong. It's okay to be okay, but we want the children to make sure that they're not worrying and overly about things that really we can help them with. So we're all about creating opportunities in an environment where we expect children to succeed. And if we expect them to succeed, then they will rise to those expectations. And we put all of the things in place to make sure that we do our very best to help that to happen. Excellent teachers in an excellent, happy environment with superb facilities. And that's that super curriculum that we have that creates an atmosphere conducive to learning. So we love our school, and we hope that you will too. Saskia, we can't hear you. I'm afraid you're on mute.
Sorry. I was trying to be quiet while you spoke. Thank you very much. Would you mind now introducing the rest of our panel?
I certainly will. So the first person to introduce you to is James McCaughrean, and he is my deputy head. And James is particularly responsible for the pastoral care within the school. And we have Lucy Southgate, who's one of my directors of studies. So we have two directors of studies who are responsible for the curriculum. And Lucy is particularly responsible for the assessment part of our curriculum. And Annabelle Ryan, who is our head of lower prep. So Annabelle looks after all of the children from, including the lodge, going through to year 2. So has a particular interest in the youngest of our children. And finally, Kate's popping up on the screen, and Kate is our admissions manager, and Kate looks after all of the admissions right through from the Lodge Day Nursery through to the end of year 6.
Thank you very much. We'll crack on straight away with the questions, if we may. One of the questions here is, what is the main benefit of smaller class sizes?
So I think it's about making sure that we know the children as well as possible. And if we know them, then we're able to help them to make those next steps all of the time. If you don't know children, if you have to divide your time as a teacher amongst a greater number of children, then it's more difficult to get to know them. If you've got time to spend with individual children, then that means that you can get to know those children and then pinpoint what they need and have more time to be interested in what they need to do next. And especially with the youngest of children, this is really, really important. So Annabelle, if you'd like to say a little bit more about the teachers and the teaching assistants that we have in the lower prep.
Yes, so it is, as Amanda said, so important that we get to know the children. The children are really individual, and so we need to make sure that we know all of their little quirks, the things that really work for those children. And we do that via assessing them. So obviously any work that they're doing, we're assessing to see how they found it, whether they need extension, whether they need a little bit of support, but also getting to know them as a little person as well. And as I say, they are individual, especially the younger children. They don't have those inhibitions yet. And so it is really important that we get it right from the very beginning, so that they're happy and that they want to learn. And we can do that. Our adult to child ratio is really high, so there are lots of adults working with the children, but not just in their classes. I think that knowing the children is at the absolute heart. So I know what's going on in a child in year 6's life at the moment. So if they're having a particularly tricky time at the moment, or need something celebrating, then everybody in the school will know that. And likewise, if there's a little person in reception that needs a little bit of a boost of their confidence or something like that, all of the staff in the whole school will know about that as well, so that when they pass them in the corridor or see them in assembly, they can just kind of give them that little personal touch. And with the small classes as well, even just going back to the really simple things, like if you're looking at a book and you want the children to look really closely at the pages, they can see it. If you've got one, you know, those touchy-feely books where you've got the like fluffy teddy bear's tummy, you can actually pass early years. You can actually pass that around the circle, and the children can actually feel it. And by the time you get to the end, the first person isn't asleep. They have all managed to touch it or kind of feel whatever the object is that you're passing around. So as I say, even the kind of really basic things of not having that many people in the room is great. It really is.
Thank you very much. I've got a question here. This is very topical. This is, what wellbeing issues for children did you notice over lockdown, and what did you do about this?
That's a really good question. As I said in my introduction, that pastoral care is exceptional here. So there are particular things that happened during lockdown, but we were ahead of the game anyway. So our pastoral care is about, again, going back to knowing those individual children. But there were some specific things that we just needed to make sure that we were ready for when the children came back to school. So although we had key worker children here the whole time that we were locked down, so we were never closed, and because we've got the Lodge Day Nursery, that we had nursery age children here. But we were very particular when the children came back to make sure that if we needed to put extra support in place, then we could do. So I'll just hand over to James as pastoral lead, who can explain a little bit more.
Yes, thank you, Amanda. I think one of the things we learned over the first lockdown was the missing part of the community. Was how to keep children who are living in different remote areas around the country away from their friends, how to bring them back together. So what we established, especially with lockdown, was that we decided to build some websites, we shared pictures, we created competitions where the children could see there was a pass the ball video. So we were trying to do as much as we could within the community to keep the children seeing each other, hearing each other, and actually through our Google Classroom with the form teachers in the morning. Sometimes rather than have a registration, they might have a bit of fun where you had to wear a hat. So people were thinking creatively, and we were trying all the time to try and think of ways to keep the children engaged, keep them involved, because they were really missing their friends. I think, as most people found in lockdown when we were away and isolated away from our work colleagues and other people, was that we were missing that human touch. So I think as a school, we tried really hard to make sure we embedded the community touch as much as possible, using technology, using different ways and methods and means to keep the children seeing and being around each other. And actually having the technology to be able to do that was fantastic. And I think that what we found as the children grew, they found more creative ways than we could keep up with at times to keep in touch with each other and came up with really good ideas. But yeah, we found that was really important. I think that social interaction, which was the bit that everybody missed the most, was one of the key things that we really tried to focus on.
And it was interesting when we got back into school that there were a lot of children that actually found friendship issues magnified for the first few days because they weren't used to being with each other. They were able to switch off the screen and move away, whereas when you're with each other, you have to interact and you have to make decisions about how you're going to react to somebody else's point of view. Lucy, who is a form teacher, works particularly closely with the group of children that she has. And there were some children in her class who needed just a little bit more guidance. And perhaps, Lucy, you'd like to say a little bit about the friends and the girls on board that we use?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it started really in lockdown, as James mentioned, that we noticed the children were missing that time together just to chat to one another. So although throughout our amazing lessons, they were interacting visually with one another, there was less of that opportunity to have that informal chat. So even during our lockdown learning, we introduced after school clubs. I had a weekly drop-in Lego club where the children could just come, and I was there and we could chat and play Lego with each other to have that social interaction. And then magnified coming back into class, as Amanda said, back in school, we had, or we still continue to have, just drop-in sessions where the children can come in and chat to you at lunchtime, or get a game out of the cupboard and come and have those conversations with you at any time of the day. We have a Friends on Board programme which we roll out across the school, Girls on Board and Friends programmes to support children with their friendship issues, to support them in managing those themselves. We're there to help them solve them so that if they encounter friendship problems later down the line, they have got those that skill set to help them with further problems if they encounter them when they're older. So we try to help and support them rather than just solving them all the time for them, giving them that skill set to help them further down the line.
Thanks, Lucy. And we've got quite a lot of positive feedback about those informal clubs coming through on our social media, so they clearly worked. I've got a very specific question here. It's a really good question. How many children per year group and per class? Amanda, do you want to take this?
So it varies depending on the year group. So the children in the lower part of the school, we have a maximum of 18 children in a class in our lower prep, so from reception through to year 2. And then for years 3 and 4, we have about 21 children in the class. And then in years 5 and 6, we have 25-ish. However, if we go over 50, then we split the children into 3 classes. So it depends exactly what our admissions are, and we have that flexibility. We've got extra space that we can use. So if the classes go beyond 25 in years 5 and 6, then we will split them into smaller groups. But we also have specialist teaching for maths and English in years 5 and 6. So the teaching groups for maths and English are very much smaller than that. Indeed, they can be as small as 7 for the whole of their maths or English teaching in years 5 and 6 as well.
Thank you very much. And another question here: what sports do the children play?
So I'm going to hand you over to James, because James also is part of the games team and supports the games teaching in school. So I'm going to hand you over to James. Perhaps Annabelle might like to talk a little bit about lower prep games as well.
Yeah, so I think the school focuses on a number of the traditional sports, but one of the things I think Ipswich Prep have always been quite unique for was thinking about the different children we have in and trying to offer a broad horizon of opportunities. So we have for, the normal sports are sort of rugby, the cricket, the hockey, we've got the netball and those sort of traditional athletics and sort of sports that we normally do. But outside of that, we've got the clubs and the co-curricular program we offer and the activities. We're offering a wide range. So currently we've got things like trampolining going on. We've got rounders. We're offering fives. So there's other sports that are very different that can be offered. We've also got a huge interest in our tennis coaching. So we're, at the moment, especially lower prep, we've got a lot of tennis coaching and clubs running, which is very popular. And like anything, I think we're always looking to try and listen and tap into that pupil voice. So quite often we've had children raising through either school council or even in their class forum time saying, "Oh, I wonder, could we have a club? Could we have even the Rounders Club, we weren't going to run it, but actually a child requested and asked Mrs. Southgate and said, I really like Rounders. Is there any possibility?" So we try to cater as well. And, we're really lucky, as Mrs. Childs said, we've got a fantastic staff, great specialism. Actually, a lot of us can turn our hand. If we want to run a Rounders Club, we've got staff who can do it. If we want to do something, we will always look at these opportunities to offer the children. And that's really, again, it's down to those unique individuals, because not every sport is as accessible to all of the children. Some children don't like rugby. So we offer a tag rugby, or we offer a touch. So they're getting all of those skills and all of the fitness and all of those confidence boosting and the team building and the self-esteem sort of building sort of skills that you get from sport. But they're not having to maybe do something where there maybe the fear factor might be to do with the contact or the slightly more physical elements of it. And as I said, it's that preparation. So when they go onto the next school, or senior school, they again, now those opportunities broaden again. So they've got lots of things. But obviously, we've also ran over the last couple of years a sailing club, horse riding. So yes, we're at skiing. Mrs. Child's got a skiing club at the moment, which is hugely popular. So there's a wonderful array of activities for the children to access. And again, it's all about that skill building, those soft skills, and learning all those things that you don't always get in a classroom, to give the children those opportunities.
Thank you very much, James. And before I hand over to Annabelle, I'll just add, I was speaking to George Pinner, who is Team GB hockey goalkeeper, and his love of hockey came in year 5 at the prep. How amazing is that? Annabelle, can you tell us a bit more about sports for the younger years?
Yes, so physical development is one of the prime areas of learning in the early years. Everything that the children are doing is developing those kind of physical skills, which in turn will help them as they move through the school once they are starting to take up some sport. So we focus on their fine motor control, so using Play-Doh and Lego and manipulating small items and disco dough. And those things will actually help the children with their pencil control and their writing eventually. So by playing, they don't realise, but actually it's part of their learning to hold a pencil and have control over it. And then also their gross motor control. So having their awareness of space and using those big movements. Also stillness. So the children are very good at moving. They're not always so good at being still. So that's, again, something else that we have to encourage, and making sure that they're safe in the space as well. With the very young children, one of the things that we try and help them do is just explore all of the different equipment. So the hula hoops and the chiffon scarves and the bean bags and the balls, so that they almost get it all out of their system, so that they've explored it as much as they can, so they know everything that they can do with those with that equipment, so that then once we're ready to start teaching them to use things appropriately, to say they've already got the kind of playing with it out of their system. Also, we help the children learn to lose. So sometimes this might be the first time that the children have ever not won a race. So if you think about them when they're at a family party with all of their big uncles and aunts, and they're running in a race and they're the winners, even though they are at a snail's pace. At school, it's the first time that they learned that they aren't always going to be the first. And so it's really important that we support them, and that they're not always going to catch. So again, you might think that your 2-year-old can catch because you have thrown the ball directly into their open arms. And so we're actually teaching them how to catch properly, that they need to be looking at the ball, and that it might actually be a bit difficult, and they might not be able to do it quite as well as they can at home. So it's that balance of really supporting them so that they then can do it on their own. So it's really important, and not so much the actual games, it's all of the sportsmanship and everything else that goes around it. But they do obviously start learning their hockey and netball and all of those skills as well.
And that's all done with specialist teaching here, isn't it, Annabelle?
Yes, so physical development happens all of the time, but we do have specialist teachers that come in and take them. We go over to Westwood, which is where we have our huge AstroTurf area. So the children, they're amazing hockey players already. They really are. And cricket, and they're really quite phenomenal.
And allied to that, there's another really interesting question here. What space do the children have to play outside in break time? I think, Annabelle, can you carry on with that?
Yes, so all of the classrooms in fact, all of the classrooms in the whole school open to an outdoor area. In the lower prep, we have doors that open out onto our, we have a grassed area. It's artificial grass so that the children can go out there no matter what the weather. So even if it's raining, it's not a mud pit. They also have a almost like an outdoor classroom that's directly outside their classroom, that's sheltered so that the children can play out there or take their lessons out there. There's climbing frames, there's giant wooden blocks, there's a stage for them to perform, there's plenty of space for them to play football as well, there's a writing shed, there's a playhouse, there's all sorts of equipment out there. Plus we have another grassed area that the children can use at lunchtime, and our large playground as well. In the upper Prep classrooms, either open out onto the playground or they have their own balcony so that they can go out and get some fresh air. But we also, I think where we are a town centre school, but equally we're ideally placed for being able to visit green space as well. We're very close to the park, and so we take the children over to the park as much as we can. We have our school field, so in the summer the children can go and play on the school field here as well. And we also have our Westwood provision. So Westwood is part of our boarding block, but there's a huge woodland area there and lots of grass areas, and also the AstroTurf as well. So the children, so we have woodland activities and adventures down there. It's just a 5-minute walk, well, maybe a 15-minute walk for nursery, but preschool, a 5-minute walk for the rest of us. But there's so much that the children can do there. So they have their waterproof trousers on and their welly boots, and they go foraging for bugs. And again, that physical activity, there's quite a steep slope that they have to climb down, and then there's a slope to come up with a rope so they can pull themselves up the rope. So yeah, so we use that. So every week we go to Westwood to explore and run.
So yeah, I've seen the pictures. It's proper woodland.
Yeah,
they're in the trees and rummaging for bugs.
It's amazing because it's like you're in the depths of the wood, but equally it is completely enclosed. So we know that the children are safe, and we obviously have a lot of adults that go over there with them. In fact, we combine our game sessions so that some of the children will be with our game staff on the AstroTurf, where the other children are exploring the woods, and then the following day we'll swap it round. But yes, it's very exciting. I mean, sometimes we might find bears and leopards and all sorts when we go exploring the woods. So,
well, and I believe that the min pins were found too this week.
And I was told by a year 1 child in great excitement that they'd found 3 new entrances to the wood yesterday, and it's amazing, nobody's ever been there before. I did reassure them that it was safe, and obviously the adults had been there before, but they were just so alight with it. It was amazing.
Thank you very much. Can I ask another question here? What extracurricular clubs do you offer? Who would like to, Amanda, who would you like to carry?
Well, I think James can take that one as he's in charge of our co-curricular.
Yeah, so I guess aligned to what I was saying about sport, the extracurricular side, it's similar. We listen to the children. I know recently a child said, "Oh, can I have a Pokemon club?" And one of the art teachers said, "Oh, I quite like Pokemon. I'm quite happy to run with a club for that." And so I think we try to offer as much of a range as we can. So we've got some classroom-based clubs where there's construction, paper, arts and crafts. We've got things like trampolining. We've got den building. You've got Lego club. One of the things obviously we've been looking at is obviously the thinking about mental health. So we've got a mindfulness club where we've got actually mindfulness colouring. So there's that sort of kinesthetic, drawing in nice calm environment. But we actually, in the lower prep, we actually have a mindfulness club where the children learn some of the mindfulness techniques to take the stress out of the day, but also to be more observant and think about their environment and to try and think of in a calm and slightly different, more perceptive manner. Drama clubs, calligraphy, puppet clubs. As I said, we've got all these unique clubs that we can link to other areas of the school. So we've got 5s courts over in the senior school. We've got cricket nets over there. We've got rounders provision. We've got tennis courts. So yeah, the range of clubs is huge. We try to offer as much as we can. And aligned to that, then you've got the 2 real key areas, I suppose, that a lot of people will focus on in terms of sport. We run a huge sports provision with additional clubs. And that's sometimes looking at extending and stretching some of our gifted sports pupils, but also in terms of music as well. We've also got lots of a variation of different clubs, ensembles, groups, choirs, and they get involved in a number of things. So we've Young Voices Go to London. We have a choir that go over from some of the prep children go over and join a choir in the senior school, sing in the chapel, and then we've got Snape and concerts. So there's lots of options and variations. And aligned, as I said, to the sports sort of side where we're extending some of our better sports children. We also are providing clubs to give children just the opportunity to play because we understand that parents and families have busy lives, and not everybody, by the time they pick up after school, has a chance to go to a club that maybe starts at 5:30, 6 in their local area. So actually, often we will run clubs that, you know, the children get an opportunity that they're not able to do in their local wherever they live. So yeah, we try to adapt it and vary it. You know, I think that at the moment there's probably about 50, 60 clubs per term in terms of on opportunity to the children.
And James, what are the timing of the after school clubs? When do they start and when do they finish?
So at the moment it's slightly varied because obviously we're trying to, in a COVID environment, we have to make sure that we are keeping bubbles and children separate. So the lower prep will run to about 4:15. Our year 3-4 children to about 4:30. And then the 5-6 clubs can go as far as 5 o'clock. Some of them will run on, like Mrs. Childs was skiing, can go to 5:15, 5:30 if needed. So obviously it depends on the club. If we have to bus children out, obviously they'll need a little bit longer. But yeah, it just depends. I think if it's an in-class club, it's much easier and it probably doesn't need as long amount of time. But for our sports provision and things, you want to take a group up to Westwood, you've got to count in a little bit of walking time there and back. And also a bit of time for the children to settle and to get into the groups and get the best out of it. And obviously with the nice weather, we can extend that a little bit more. But those are the social interactions we're really so keen to get the children doing. And that's probably the biggest bit they missed, as said, in that lockdown. So it's lovely just to see children out playing and smiles on their faces. And even the staff, you know, as a staff member out teaching them, it's lovely to be back out there because that's what we really have missed.
And you mentioned busy lives and parents and pickup. Late stay is also quite popular. Can you explain a bit more?
Absolutely, yeah. I think, yeah, to accommodate and to help parents, you know, we have a late stay provision. So we have a breakfast club in the morning where children can be dropped off. Then in the afternoons, we've got various late stays for the different age groups. So parents can leave their children and pick them up, obviously, to try and to align with those busy working lives. Alongside that, we've got a bus program where, you know, quite a number of our children to use the bus to come to and from school, which also then gives the flexibility of parents and allows parents the opportunity to, you know, we understand that they're busy. So actually by providing this opportunity of transport and they're with other children similar age and in a very safe, monitored transport system, you know, it gives those parents that opportunity to use those facilities, which, you know, we think is a real strength of the school.
Thank you very much. I'm going to ask each of you this now. This is a lovely question. I'll start with you, Lucy. What do you love most about your job?
Oh, I love being with the children. That is what makes my day so special. And I'm fortunate enough this year to be a form teacher, which is that extra bit special because you really do get to know each of the individual children and know what makes them tick. So we obviously are about making sure that they reach their potential with their learning, but it's making sure, as Amanda said, that they are happy in school. And so if they have a worry or something's happened at home, maybe they've got a poorly pet or the fact that they've had an argument with their brother or sister in the morning, we know about that and we get to know each individual child. But when you get those little light bulb moments, be it with their academic learning or with one of their clubs they're doing or a hobby that they're interested in, it just gives you such a buzz. I had a year 2 pupil that I was talking to and trying to encourage the other day to go to a club called Young Voices at lunchtime. And they weren't so sure because they wanted to be out on the playground playing football with their friends. And I said, well, look, you love your singing. Why don't you go along and give it a go? And then when I spoke to them the next day about it, they were like, it was amazing. We sang Mary Poppins and we did this and we did that. I absolutely loved it and came to light. And it was just so lovely seeing that joy and enthusiasm about their learning. But being with the children and just helping them to reach their potential is what makes me have a great day every single day that I come here. So
that's fantastic. Thank you. Before I hand over to the others, can I ask you this question that's just popped in? What speech and language support does the school offer?
So we have a specialist speech and language team that can help the children with any issues that they might have regarding their speech and language. We support them as much as we can within the school provision. And if we feel that they need any external support, we have those conversations with parents and make sure that we work with specialists outside of the school, medical professionals who can help the children to support them with their speech and language. So any recommendations that come from those specialists, we're making sure that we're embedding it every single day within their learning, that they may go out for specialist group support to help them. But the important thing is that all of our school community are aware of the needs of those children. So as Annabelle said earlier, you might have a year one pupil that might have a speech and language need, but teachers who teach mainly in the upper prep with year 5, 6 children will still know about that child. So if they encounter them in the corridor or at lunchtime, they can really help and support them with what they need.
Thank you very much. And Annabelle, what do you love most about your job?
Well, I think we might all say the same thing. It is the children, but actually add to it, it's all the people in our school. It's a really, Amanda said at the beginning, it is a really happy school, and not only are the children happy, but the staff are as well. And we are all colleagues, but equally, we're really good friends. We care about each other and get excited with each other. And it's that very much like a big family, really. It is just fantastic. And I think every single day, even though we have our timetables and we're very routine, every day is different. And so there's, we're never ever bored. So it's just, my only concern is that the days do go far too quickly and Friday comes round. I mean, don't get me wrong, Friday is great, but I can never quite believe that we've got to Friday. And then when you think about everything that we have done in that week, it's really quite phenomenal. Thank
you very much. And James, what about you? What's the best thing about your job?
Well, now that Annabelle said she thinks we'll say the same thing, I've been trying to think slightly different. I think, from my point, I think the variation, I just think it's amazing. My day, like any others, as Annabelle said, they fly because we do so many different things. So for me, it's meeting the children in the morning, seeing them bouncing in, skipping into classrooms, having those lovely conversations in the morning. But next thing, I'm teaching a class. I'm in the classroom teaching a maths lesson, or I'm in the IT suite. We've got a computing lesson. We're building Lego robots and programming. The next thing, you're in the lunch hall. You're chatting to the children, and then 5 minutes later, I'm out on a sports field, and you're seeing the children in so many different environments. And I think, as Lucy said, that buzz you see when the children smile, when something clicks, or that moment, that eureka moment that they just get. I mean, that's golden, and the beauty of it all, again, is from my part at the end of the day, quite often I'm waving the children off goodbye, and I get to have that conversation of how was your day, and just seeing them smile and that buzz and that glow, that's what makes it brilliant. And that's, the fact that every day is different. You come in, there's never something goes the same way. The other day, I think, was waving a child goodbye, and as the child opened the car door, the dog jumped out of the car, and the next thing we were looking and watching this dog causing, absolute laughter around all the other children who were watching. And, it was a funny moment, but again, and talking to the parent and the child, and the dog everything was safe and fine, but actually it was just one of those sort of things where you just never know what's going to happen in a primary school, and the children just bring those little pearls, those little golden things that we just don't expect, or say something that, and that just that's what makes the job. And that's why we love it so much.
So on that note, Amanda, do you want to tell us a bit more about wellbeing and dogs?
Oh, yes. So in fact, I was hearing the story yesterday about the dog that jumped out of the car, and talking about dogs, you can see behind me, there's a fluffy, soft toy behind me that's in the shape of a golden retriever. And the reason that's there is because we have our own well-being dog called Lola. She's actually my dog. And thinking about all of these lovely things that my colleagues have been saying about the things that they love about being at the prep school. One of the great things for me is that my day is so different. And when I bring Lola in, she's working with all sorts of different children. And on Thursday, we spent some time, Lola and I spent some time with the Lodge Day nursery children, as well as some of the older ones. And she spent some individual time with some children that would benefit from some time with a very large, fluffy golden retriever, and it was great to see the children interact with her, and to also be brave. So Lola is highly trained, so that she is not going to be aggressive with the children, but to actually help them to be at ease. And in the adventurers group the other day, when Lola's sitting down, she's a big dog, and her head is at the height of the children as they're standing up, and those big teeth can be quite intimidating. So I got her to lie down and settle. And as she did, the children then came and stroked her, the ones that were feeling a little bit anxious. And they were then overcoming those anxieties, those fears, just by being brave enough just to touch Lola gently on the head. But from those moments where children are overcoming their anxiety about the dog in particular, that children use some time with Lola for all sorts of things. And we have lots of requests. So Lola has a timetable to be able to go and work with individual children who perhaps find it more difficult to talk to a person, but will talk to Lola. And Lola is then there as the facilitator. So the handler will then use Lola to be able to bring out those thoughts that the children have, that perhaps they're finding things a little bit tough. And sometimes just stroking a dog just helps people feel a little bit more at ease. So well-being is really important. I mean, that's just the school dog. There's so many other things that we do. As James said, even in our clubs program, we have well-being activities, including mindfulness, and we bring those techniques into the day. So we might use some breathing techniques with the children. We might have just a quiet time at the beginning of lessons, or even in the middle, if the children were getting to a space where the teachers thought that actually it would be a good idea just to pause and just to be in that moment, to settle everybody down and then to move on again. And as I say, well-being is very much at the heart of what we do, not just for the children, but for staff as well. And in order for the staff to be the very best that they can be, I need to make sure that the staff are in a good place too. So there are lots of things that we do. We have a trained counsellor and play therapist that can work with the children if they have a particular need. And we have other trained members of staff in mental health first aid. And we're very open about mental health and make sure that the children understand it's okay to talk about these things. And it's not just about our physical health, but our mental health. And we've been doing that for a long time. So this is not just a new thing, which unfortunately it is in some schools, that this has been something that we've been doing for a long time.
Thank you. That was really interesting. And I think that's covered quite a few of the questions. I've got a question here about, this is about entrance procedures. So I think I'll bring Kate back in. Amanda, can you start by talking about the expected number of applicants for not 2021 but 2022?
It's really difficult to say how many we would expect, because it just really does vary from year to year. So in the prep school, we're a little bit more across the whole year when we see our applicants, but Kate will talk a little bit more in a second about that. But the important thing to do is, if you're interested in Ipswich Prep, that you actually just get in contact with us, because then we can then see what your thoughts are, what your needs are, and to see where we are as far as the classes are concerned. As I said earlier, we do have a certain amount of flexibility, that if we had more applicants than we would normally have, then there may be a chance of extending a year group and having an extra class. But if we don't know early enough, then we can't make those plans, because obviously getting an extra teacher takes time to recruit, etc. So we do need to know those things early. But there are some of our year groups that are getting to a stage where we are at optimum numbers, and if that's the case and we don't know early enough, then it might be that we can't actually offer a place. But Kate can give more details about the assessment process and when to get in contact.
So Kate, can you tell us, I've got a little slide here with some dates on, can you just talk us through what parents should do? You're the person at the end of the phone call. Can you just introduce yourself and tell parents what they should do in terms of getting in touch?
Yes, certainly. Hi. So you can see from the slide here that we are still able to accept some applications for September 2021 entry. We do have some limited places available in some year groups. So if you are thinking about it and you want some more advice, then please do contact, because we are available to help you and talk you through the process. But we are also accepting registrations for September 22 entry as well. And as Amanda has talked about, if there is lots of interest, then we are able to extend our provision already that we have. So if you are keen to look for September 2022, then do get in contact. All children that are looking for entry in September 2022, it really is advisable to have those registrations in by the end of the Michaelmas term, so by the end of December, the 17th. And then we are in a really good position to be able to be prepared for January assessments, and then looking at classes and extending provision if necessary from then. But yeah, the best thing to do is just to get in contact. We are still offering virtual tours, personalised virtual tours. So it's very much a normal as possible experience, where I will show you around the school, and then you will also get to meet with Mrs. Charles and chat with Amanda about what you're looking for. But hopefully soon we'll be able to get back to in-person tours. We're not quite set on the date, but do get in contact, and as soon as we're able to do those, we absolutely will invite everybody in. And then yes, we obviously have the assessment process as well, so slightly different if you're still looking for September, but absolutely it's possible, so do get in contact.
So Kate, the virtual tour, do you walk around with a phone showing
parents? So it's an iPad, so I will meet with you and have a Google Meet with the parents, and then walk you through the school on the iPad, so you are absolutely seeing what you would normally see on a normal tour. You can see the classroom, see the children in the classes, and chat with the teachers as you normally would. It's just on the end of an iPad, but you'll still see all of our wonderful facilities and get to chat and talk to the children and the teachers as you go through.
So it's well worth doing. So
absolutely, yes, and really, really rewarding. Actually, the feedback from the parents has been amazing. Sometimes the idea of a virtual tour is that actually I'm just going to click you onto a video and you can watch something that's been pre-prepared. But no, they are personalised, they're live, and absolutely tuned into what you're looking for, and the children's particular interests, if they're particularly sporty or musical and really want to see those particular facilities, then that's absolutely tuned into what the children are looking for.
That sounds great, thank you. Annabelle, I know assessments were slightly different this year, but they seem to work quite well. Can you talk to me a little bit about how you assess at the younger years?
Yes, so actually, we were obviously concerned about how we were going to do our assessments this year, but it's been a huge success. So what we've done this year is I've had a Google Meet with the parents and the children, so been able to just get to know them a little bit. The children, so the younger children have brought a favourite toy with them, so that they can show me their toy and have a chat with me and kind of warm up. And then I've been doing a story session, and so the children choose which story they'd like to listen to. And then during the story, once they're feeling more comfortable, because it is obviously strange, I'm new to them, and then all of a sudden in their living room via a screen. So it does just a little bit of coaxing. But I have to say, even the children who didn't want to speak to me at the beginning of the meet, by the end of the meet, were chatting away. And so by that discussion, I could find out an awful lot about the children. And as I say, kind of do a little bit of assessing. So when we were reading, like counting in the pictures and looking at some sounds and some words in the book as well. And also being able to talk to the parents. And that's the thing that I think, we will be putting more and more in the future is, I've really enjoyed that one-to-one time with the parents as well, to find out a little bit more about the children's interests, where the parents, if the parents have got any concerns. The parents also fill in a parent report as well, and we get information from their current setting or their current school. And yeah, as I say, it's been really valuable. And then having continued contact with the parent too. So I had a parent that I arranged a Google Meet with just yesterday for a child who's joining us, and they've just got a few more questions. And so we were able to meet like this. They're actually all the way in Scotland as well. So if they were here, they wouldn't have been able, you know, even if they were allowed in, they wouldn't be able to come to school. So it was really great because they could ask those really personal questions and and just get to know me a little bit. With the older children, we did do some assessments. So the children that perhaps wanting a place in year 3 or even into year 2, we were doing some online assessments with them where I was helping them and guiding them through the assessments. But it was all things that they could do at home on the screen, even a little bit of writing and reading. So I feel like I've got quite a good understanding of the children. So yeah, I've really enjoyed it.
Thank you very much. Amanda, can I ask, what's the processes for if children are joining in September? How do they get to know the school beforehand?
Well, obviously we've had to be as creative as we possibly can when we've got COVID on our hands still. But we want to make sure that the children have the opportunities to be in school if we possibly can. So we've looked at time frames and if we can get children in before they're actually going to join, then we have done. But we've also had a lot of children that have joined us who have never actually put a foot inside the school beforehand. So again, that goes back to our pastoral care and making sure that we've made those connections. And as Annabelle said, making sure that we've had those opportunities for the children to meet with us virtually, even if they can't be in school. And our buddy system has also been developed a little bit further. So those children that are joining us, we've made sure that parents of our current children who are then being bubbles, the buddies, are very much involved so that they've made contact before they join. So we had a couple of children that joined us this last week, for example, and both of them had contact with their buddies beforehand. And indeed, I was on the playground on Monday morning, making sure that the children were in. And one of those buddies was absolutely ready to meet her new friend and make sure that they were welcomed. In fact, they ended up having an entourage of going around the playground, and I had to stop them because it wasn't quite so COVID safe. But they, the children were enthusiastic about that. We're very, very much hoping that for the children that are signed in for September for this year, that we're going to be able to have a live induction afternoon the last week of term. So we've put that back as far as we possibly can, so that as long as the roadmap goes to plan, then we will be inviting the children in live in the last week of term, so that the children can be here. But that induction process is very much about us getting to know each other and making sure that the children feel as comfortable as they possibly can to actually get here. And then we make sure that buddy system and that the staff across the whole school know the new children that are coming in, so that we can then make that as seamless as it possibly can. And in fact, one of the boys that joined us this week was skiing yesterday afternoon, so incredibly brave, decided to join ski club. That's something that he really enjoys. And I asked him yesterday what was the best bit of his week. And firstly, he said that doing so many different subjects was great, because at his last school, he hadn't had the opportunity to do that. And I said, have you had a good week? Has it been a long week? And he said, I feel as if I've been here forever. And I said, well, that's brilliant, because if you feel as if you've been here a long time and had a big smile on his face, then that means that you feel settled already. And we went absolutely with thumbs up. So yeah, it's about making sure that everybody that's involved in that has as much information as they need, and for us to make it as easy as possible for the children to join us.
That's really interesting. Thank you. And that touches on the next question I've had through, saying, are there opportunities to join mid-year? So yes, absolutely. Does it vary by year group?
No, I mean, Kate, do you want to take that one, because you're very much at the working end of making sure that the children can come at any point during the year?
Yes, absolutely. So we have lots of children join us mid-year. Where we have places, we will always see children. And yes, Amanda said that we had children join us just last week. We had children join us, and we have had children join us all throughout lockdown as well. So yes, do get in contact as well. So always here to help you through and talk you through that process as well. Because I know it can be quite daunting thinking about when to move and when's the right possible time to do that. But we absolutely are here to help you and talk you through that process.
Thank you very much. And I think that's the last of the questions. So Amanda, can I just hand over to you to say goodbye to everybody?
Well, I'm really pleased that you've joined us today, whether it's live or whether you're watching this on YouTube at a later stage. And the most important thing is to come and get to know us. You know, we've talked about that a lot. It's very difficult on the screen to get a proper feel. And so it's important to have those individual conversations with us to get to know us. And making a decision about sending your child to a school and choosing that school is a massive decision. And it does impact on the whole family. And so it's important that the school is the right school for you. And you can't make that decision until you've got all of the information and every single question that you might have answered. So our aim is that by the time that that you're asking us to have some time with your child, that you've had those questions answered, or, as Annabelle said earlier, that you continue to answer those questions. We want to make sure that match is right between you and your values as a family and our values as a school. So it's really, really important that you explore our website, see what we do, and see if that matches what your expectations are. And if all of that is right, then we're all going to have a fabulous working relationship to make sure that the children get the very, very best out of their education. And that's what it's all about. So if we're working as a team, we're communicating really well, then the children are going to do really well. So get to know us as much as you possibly can. See that we are the right school for your children. And that is all about coming and talking, having some time with us. So we look forward to hopefully seeing you for a virtual tour in the nearest future. But hopefully by the end of this academic year, we're going to be able to invite you in so you can properly get a feel for what we do and how we do it.
Thank you very much. And that's goodbye from us at Ipswich Prep.